Claude Code is about to completely change how we optimize websites. I just gave it access to the service business website, and in one afternoon, it entirely transformed their online presence. I'm talking extracted every page, researched the business and competitors, dove deep into local SEO best practices, rewrote all the copy with proper keywords and persuasive messaging that is actually already converting. The best part, it wasn't just giving me an audit, it actually did everything. Deployed it right back to WordPress, and I didn't have to touch that godforsaken hellhole that is a WordPress backend. So let me show you exactly how to do this yourself with Claude Code. If you stick with me here, you'll have more organic website traffic than your competitors that are spending thousands of dollars on agencies. All right, let's do it. Okay, I'm gonna open up Claude Code here in a second and get started, but first I wanted to just lay some ground rules, set the context. So here is the site, GMS Laserworks, Mr. Laser's beautiful looking site. If we look at page speed insights, I think this is something that Claude will do really well, is just come up with a plan on how to fix page speed relatively quickly. That's where I wanted to start. So just looking at Google page speed insights, it's pretty good. It looks like 100 SEO. I don't know what Google means by that, like how it's collecting that metric, but I guess that's good. And then 68 performance. So this could be boosted quite a bit. And this is something we should just be able to give to Claude, and it should be able to implement this and just boost the page speed relatively quickly. So we're going to start there because I know that's a big SEO metric. And then we'll move a little bit into another big one, of course, is organic search traffic. So right now the site has 152 organic searches a month and some keywords it's ranking for. Non-surprisingly, the top one is printer fix near me with 131 searches a month. But I think it can be improved, and that's what we're going to optimize with Claude Code today, which leads me to some rules. I'm going to be very tempted to create new pages, create new content, have service pages and blog posts and all sorts of stuff to start ranking for other keywords. But I want to just start with optimizing the site. I think this is probably something that you would be interested in too. We're just going to do the most basic optimizations first. No redesign either. Tempted as I am to build this completely from scratch with Cursor and Claude Code, I'm going to avoid that temptation. And then the third one, this is going to be the hardest one, no working in WordPress, which is just an absolute hellscape. I cannot stand their UI that hasn't been updated in 15 years, and it's so confusing. So I have a thought. I think I'll be able to do it with Claude Code, with the CLI, which I'll talk about in a second. So yeah, that's the plan. Simple SEO fixes that Claude can do itself, and maybe minor updates to copy. Maybe we'll expand some service pages. So to do that, we are going to start with giving Claude all the context. And in order to do that, we can do a few different things. Firecrawl is probably one of the best and easiest to use in terms of just using an API key and even their MCP server, which I will talk about as we actually get into that step of extracting. But we're going to take the whole site, we're going to break it out into a sitemap that Firecrawl will basically do automatically. Then it will just extract all of the content of the site and we'll store it in our code base in markdown files. That sounds confusing at all. Claude will basically do everything as long as we connect Firecrawl properly, which I'll show you how to do. So that's Firecrawl. And then we're just going to feed all of this content into Claude. We're going to tell Claude, okay, step by step, let's analyze this. Let's do an SEO analysis of the website and the content, and then come up with a plan to actually optimize. So I have a checklist right now of just some rules that I already know, but it's relatively straightforward, kind of like boilerplate stuff. You want to fix a site. So I put it all here, and I'm going to first let Claude just analyze it itself and come up with a plan. And then I'm going to ask it if it misses any of these. So that is the plan. Now, the big question is, like I mentioned, will this work with WordPress CLI? And CLI is just a command line interface. It's just a text-based way to interact with an application. So for example, in Claude, when we have our terminal window open, Claude can actually run bash commands that are talking directly to WordPress. So it can tell WordPress, hey, make this new page, add an image, etc. And it kind of fits the use case perfectly with Claude Code because you're doing everything in a terminal window already. So in theory, Claude will have knowledge of all of this documentation, how to run all of these commands, and we'll be able to just do this directly. We won't have to go into WordPress's terribly unfriendly user experience to update pages and to do all the things we want to do to optimize this site. So that's the idea. That's a big question. We're going to figure this out and see how it goes. So without further ado, let's jump into Claude Code and get started optimizing GMS Laserworks. Okay, I'm going to start as I normally do with ChatGPT, brainstorming this and then putting together a product requirements document, a PRD. Okay, so I want to do some SEO optimizations for a site. The site is called GMS Laserworks. I want to use Claude Code to do these SEO optimizations. I have access to the WordPress, like I mentioned. I don't necessarily want to create new pages yet. I just want Claude to analyze this site and run through all of these different checks and like generate a detailed plan how to fix this and then proceed with fixing it. A couple big questions. The first is, will Claude be able to fix this with the WordPress CLI, or will I have to manually go into the dashboard and make any changes? And then the second is, what are some SEO best practices, especially for local service businesses? All right, all that sounds good. The only thing I'll mention is I don't want to do anything with Google My Business profile. I want this to be just contained within the website right now. Put everything in a canvas so I can download it as a markdown file. Make it like a little more tactical too. Make sure you're telling Claude like it's going to have to come up with metadata and page titles, update all of that. It's going to have to write really good copy, so it's going to have to think like an SEO copywriter. The second important thing to mention, the first step is we're going to actually be extracting all of the website content with Firecrawl. So Claude will have existing access to all of this, and in the PRD just mentioned that Claude should look at the markdown files of the extracted site to understand the site as a whole. We have this big old markdown file that I'm going to go ahead and download now. So we've got it downloaded. And then the next thing is to open up Claude Code. Just go to this docs page. You can also just ask ChatGPT, say, here's the link. How do I do this? It'll have you install a couple dependencies and just accept some permissions, and then you'll be all set up and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get Claude going in a terminal window. So I'm just going to open up my coding folder here. I'm just going to right click and go new terminal at folder, and we're going to start talking to Claude. So let's open up Claude, and I already forgot to drop in the markdown file that we just downloaded, this PRD. So we're going to take this, put this PRD in here, paste it. I'm going to actually just create a new folder called docs, keep track of this stuff, docs, PRD, throw the PRD in there. And then I'm just going to open up Claude, press 1 to proceed. I'm going to say at PRD. Okay, so I want us to get started on some SEO optimizations. You should have all of the WordPress credentials in here. You should have a pretty straightforward plan in terms of how to actually implement this. Let's go ahead and do that. If you want to just phase this out one by one and come up with a plan yourself based off of the PRD, go ahead and create a new document and then just proceed one by one in terms of making SEO optimizations to the site. So the reason I separated the PRD from other doc is because I want Claude to actually read this, understand it. I want to make sure that it is interpreting all of this information correctly. And I want us to keep a running log of all of the implementations. So the PRD is kind of like the Bible. I don't want this to be updated or changed at all, but I want to keep track of everything that Claude's doing. And so that's why I'm having it create a new document. We're going to actually open up the terminal in Cursor. Okay, so now we're in Cursor, so I can at least see the code base being updated. I'll have easier access to the markdown files, and it's a little more pleasant for a viewer. So going to copy and paste the exact same thing I just told it, and it's going to do the same thing. So I just created the implementation plan. It's getting ahead of itself. I want to actually read this implementation plan to make sure it's not missing anything. And then I'm going to actually create just some folders to keep track of all of this. So we're going to say GMS site extracted. Make sure that you upload this to the folder GMS site extracted. Copy and paste that and just say in the implementation plan so it doesn't miss that, where we talk about Firecrawl, which is here. Cool. All right, that sounds like a good plan. We can always update this after we've done all of this. I can go to another Claude agent and say, okay, we've done all of this. What else do we need to do? What else do we need to do? And keep asking it until we get to a point where it's like, okay, we cannot do anything else to optimize this site. So make sure also that you use the Perplexity MCP server to ask Perplexity what best practices in terms of extracting a full site with the Firecrawl MCP. So while Claude's working on that, let me explain a couple different things. The first is Firecrawl. What Firecrawl is, it's a website scraper. It will extract content from a website, and it will very seamlessly allow us to store the entire website content rather than us trying to copy and paste all of the different pages, put it in one folder, and Claude will be able to access it, and read all of that content. To set up Firecrawl, all you need to do is sign up, sign in, and then go to their API keys and hit create. And then to actually set up, run the different commands, you can just tell Claude to research best practices for extracting a full site with Firecrawl with the Perplexity MCP server. Since we have the API keys and it's all set up, all Claude needs to do is just run the right commands. Similar to how it's talking to WordPress, it's also using the Firecrawl CLI to extract sites. I just wanted to make sure it's following the correct documentation though. That is a limitation with Claude and these AI coders as a whole. So that is where Perplexity, the MCP server, comes in. And to set up the Perplexity MCP server, I already have this set up, but it's really just, if you just search Perplexity MCP, you'll find the GitHub documentation. And again, just feed this link into ChatGPT and just ask ChatGPT, how do I set this up properly? So that is Firecrawl, that is Perplexity. Those are really the only two other tools we're going to be using. And let's see if it's made progress. Okay, it hasn't made any progress. It still needs to ask Perplexity. All right, so Claude has already started the Firecrawl extraction. Okay, I would start by having the sitemap, right? Isn't there a Firecrawl feature where you can just get the full sitemap, extract pages one by one with that sitemap? Okay, before you actually get into the WordPress uploading, what do you think SEO-wise? Like, based off your knowledge of SEO best practices, Claude updated our plan. So now we got fully fleshed out plan. I think we're ready to proceed to phase 2. This is the big question. We're gonna see how well Claude works with the WordPress CLI. Okay, perfect. Yes, proceed to phase 2 and begin on the on-page content. And please use the Perplexity MCP server to again ask how to communicate with the WordPress CLI. Make sure you're using the most up-to-date documentation. Okay, I have DigitalOcean access. I'm wondering, can you just use the DigitalOcean CLI to upgrade like this, to create a new 2 GB droplet and upgrade this whole thing? Again, ask Perplexity MCP to guide you here. All right, I am going to do that real quick, then we're gonna get back to it. All right, we have completed phase 1, which is a new server stack migration. If you're doing this in your site or your servers or however you're running this is less than 10 years old, you probably don't need to do this step. So this is kind of extraneous, but we went ahead and upgraded all of these, which is great. And so now Claude has access to the latest WordPress CLI and we'll be able to start updating the content with WordPress. Okay, so now Claude's just going to town on rewriting the About Us page. I should probably make sure that this is correct. Okay, I saw your first version. It was pretty good. A couple changes. Is it best practice to add even more cities for like local SEO? Or is there a certain amount where it just becomes diminishing returns? I'd add as many cities as you can in Marin and Sonoma County. You'll probably have to use the Perplexity MCP server to understand the bigger towns. The second thing is adding printer makes and models. Is it best practice to include... Okay, so we have an expanded About Us page, a printer repair page, a copier repair page, a toner delivery page, a contact us page, all with printer makes and models, copier makes and models, correct geographies, page titles, meta descriptions, and this is all done in the span of 5 minutes. So it's now configuring the Yoast SEO, which is a WordPress SEO plugin, configuring these settings for local business. Not sure what that means. It's configuring the XML sitemap settings to enable sitemap generation. I mean, this is a perfect example of a couple of years ago, I would have had to hire a technical SEO agency to do all of this. And now it's just done with Claude in minutes. All right, so looking at our documentation here, phase 2, according to Claude, is now complete. On-page content and metadata, all of these different pages created. We have configurations with Yoast SEO, local business schema, and XML sitemaps. We have expanded content, meta descriptions, page titles updated. Now we're going to get into some more technical SEO stuff in phase 3, so let's get Claude working on it. All right, we're moving through phase 3. We've got MU plugins directory. Not sure what that even means, but it's downloading it. And here we are. So W3 total cache, auto optimize configured, short pixel image optimizer. Question for you on the actual images. Did you upload random images from somewhere? There should also be some images on the page. Do you see like the header image with the slider at the top? And then there should be a couple other images throughout. Are you able to add alt text to those and or compress them? While it's optimizing images, this is a good Claude Code hack, is that to actually bring in another agent to check this agent's work and just make sure that it has indeed implemented this. A lot of times you'll find with Claude Code, I mean, just any LLM, if it's focused on a specific task, it doesn't do a very good job of like extracting and reviewing its own work. So I like to bring in a dedicated LLM that's just a debugger. This agent's role is going to be specifically focused on just making sure that Claude implemented everything properly. So I've got another terminal window open. I'm just going to open Claude. I'm going to say catch up on this code base, understand what we're doing, and then let's see, there's no evidence of images. Okay, you mentioned header and slider. Okay, got it. So we weren't able to extract the images with Crawl, which is fine, but I'm wondering if it's able to update these images somehow that like exist in the WordPress CMS. So that's what I'm gonna ask it. No, don't do any stock images yet. What I want to do is, can you optimize the images that are on the page? I know you said that Crawl didn't pick those up, but aren't you able to use the WordPress CLI to find the images like within the CMS and optimize those? Okay, so now we got this second Claude Code that already caught itself up on everything. Perfect. Now you are the QA tester here. You are the SEO expert, the engineer who is going to go through and just check the agent that is working on this, that's primarily responsible for making these changes. You're going to check its work and just make sure that everything has been implemented. I need you to look at that documentation, go through line by line, call out any red flags, and just identify these. I need us to find these images somehow. The images still exist on the site. So is there a way for us to extract these images or find these images? Shouldn't they be still stored in the WordPress CMS, even if we did upgrade and migrate? I think worst case scenario, we can extract, because the site is still live. We still haven't fully migrated it or deployed it. I believe I can extract images with Crawl. So we can always rely on that if necessary. And these should just be image URLs. Like if I just copy this image address, yeah. So we can just pull these image addresses and just place them in properly. Why is the QA agent extracting with Crawl? You can't just let them roam free. You do kind of have to reel them in. It's like herding cattle. Meanwhile, we've got the main coding agent extracted 13 images. That sounds about right. Okay, so it actually used Crawl to extract these. Okay, can you confirm that all of the images on the website previously, are they included in our HTML? Are they in the right place? Is everything set up properly? I want to make sure the site looks exactly the same. Our QA agent found meta descriptions and content accurate. Structured data partially implemented. Performance plugins, red flags and failures. Structured data conflicts. Nice. This is exactly why we Claude get checks and balances here. So I'm just going to copy after it's done with this image extraction and paste this until it fixed these. So we got feedback here. We've got the images updated and uploaded from the original site into our new site. Now I'm just going to copy and paste all of this feedback to our main coding agent. I'm going to say, okay, I just had a QA agent diagnose this code and the implementations and the things that you said that you put in place. It had some findings that seem to contradict what you said you've done. Now, you are the lead coding agent on this, so it's ultimately your call. You can push back. You can ask the QA agent any questions, but I need you to address all of these. QA agent looked to be right on a few things, which is great. Glad we found those issues. Partially wrong. Okay, immediate actions taken. We're just going to have these two talking back and forth to each other. So I'm going to say, here's what the coding agent found when it looked into your feedback. Do you have any pushbacks? Do you have any issues or anything that the coding agent missed or is wrong about? And then now I'm going to go back to the coding agent. And I'm going to say, okay, sounds good for the server level performance, for the sitemap, schema, structured data conflicts. Have you implemented that? Have you made those changes yet? What's your plan to make these changes? Please add this to our planning document. So I always like to confirm with it, even if it's saying that it made these changes, it may have not actually done anything. It just documented that these changes needed to be made. So now I'm having it go in and actually make these changes. And I want documentation for everything, especially with these limited context windows with Claude Code. You just have to document every single step and be detailed about what was done. And so we can go back if needed, if it loses context and forgets what it was doing, we can just go back to the documentation. So while it's doing that, let's see what our QA agent found. Coding agent was mostly accurate. Verified fixes, coding. This is fair. I was mostly right, but missed some nuances. Remaining concerns and pushbacks. Sitemap confusion persists. Okay, so QA agent went back, checked all of these things. It looks like there's a bunch of these missing still. So I'm just going to keep going back and forth on this until we can confirm that everything has been implemented properly. QA agent and the coding agent, they had a nice little back and forth. They finally come to an agreement on all of these technical SEO optimizations. I want to emphasize too, I know very little about technical SEO. Not nearly enough to go into WordPress and do any of this myself. So to have Claude here doing all of this, especially with the WordPress CLI, the fact that I don't even need to go into the WordPress UI in the backend at all, Claude can just do this all with the command line interface, is a pretty liberating experience. And if your site's hosted on WordPress, like many small or local businesses, you can do this yourself. It's that simple. And yes, I know I'm giving a lot of faith in Claude, but it's proven itself time and again, especially when I have checks and balances with this QA agent. So I want to just emphasize that I'm not doing any of this. I'm just playing a role of manager, just telling each of these agents what to do. Everything to me looks like it's in a good place. And we're going to move on now to something I actually know a little bit more about. It's just copywriting, and it's just writing for SEO. And we had Claude working on this where it extracted these pages, the homepage, about us, services. I had it working on that already, but now we're going to dive a little bit deeper and try to think through a good way or better way to just position the site right now and just add more keywords to the homepage, think through some local SEO best practices, think through the service offering, the pain point that is being solved, and just try to speak to that immediately, which helps with, SEO, keeping people on the page, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to write any of that copy though, of course. I'm just going to give Claude direction on how to write it, review it, and then we'll get the homepage done, and then we'll go through each of these pages. All right, so you are an expert copywriter. You specialize in SEO, especially local SEO. Now, I want you to rewrite each of these pages one by one. We're going to start on the homepage, and we're going to go to all the different pages, but I want you to think about how to keep people on page. I want you to think about the business as a whole, the problem that's being solved, the urgency, local SEO best practices too, and then think about the product suite too, the different types of printers, copiers, and then the locations. That's going to be an important thing. And then I want you to do some research. So use the Perplexity MCP server to just research local SEO best practices specific to this business. So this is the updated homepage. It's looking really good. This is one-shot prompted. I haven't even changed anything. I really have no feedback. And it covers off on everything, and it does it naturally, and it flows through the different paragraphs so well. Claude 4, I think this is Opus writing this, just an absolutely fantastic writer. Just continue to be impressed. This is just a solid About Us page. Covers off on everything. Got a lot of trust signals in there. We're weaving in brands. We're weaving in geographies. It just nailed it. I'm going to send it off for approval, of course, but that looks good. So I'm going to tell it to just keep going. Okay, nice. About page looks great. Now I need you to move on to the service pages. Try to speak to, again, the customer's pain points, potential searches from the customers related to these specific services. Weaving in brand names naturally, again, is going to be super important, and write some just really solid service page copy for all three of these. We'll start with printers and then we'll just move through. All right, so it's got some comprehensive research that it's done for these service pages. That all sounds good to me. All right, so Claude has written the updated printer repair page. Let's check out the existing page. So this is it. Definitely can use some expansion. So let's see how Claude wrote this. Yeah, this is just written like a classic local SEO service page. Oh, nice. We've got some brands, specific model numbers, and it's even got an FAQ on printer repair. All right, so in about 5 minutes, Claude has finished rewriting all of the service pages. I made a few changes, but for the most part, it's good to go. The way it's picking up on keywords, the way it's weaving in naturally local SEO best practices like geographies and different counties and stuff like that. It really is just exceptional at this kind of stuff, especially just straightforward like SEO specific writing. This is all good to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to have it deploy to the actual site. So here's our site, and we want to just update these service pages here. So I'm going to tell Claude to do that now. Okay, it looks great. Let's go ahead and update the copy for each of these pages with these new updated service pages and about us pages and the home page and stuff like that. So this should be relatively straightforward if you're doing this yourself. Once you've updated the markdown files or just updated your pages, I would recommend doing that locally first, like with Claude Code, double checking, of course, giving feedback if needed, and just updating the actual markdowns specifically. This is where it's nice working in Cursor because you can just access your whole project directory and just kind of click through and edit the documents if needed. So yeah, I mean, it's really straightforward. What Claude's doing now, it's just using the WordPress CLI to update all these pages. So we're going to have it just run through all of these, update these pages, and then I'll confirm once it's done that. All right, so Claude has deployed this new copy to the live website. It's all updated, just took one go. Very simple. The homepage is updated, about us. All the different service pages are now updated. With this new copy, we have, of course, the technical SEO implementations that we did previously. That's all reflected on this site now. And then we have some on-page SEO stuff as well, like page titles and meta descriptions. So if I look at with this plugin called Detailed, it's just a nice little SEO plugin that will show the page title, the meta description. So that's the homepage. So everything is pretty much good to go. Let me go back to the Figma and just kind of wrap this thing up and recap exactly what we did and how you can do this yourself. So just to wrap this thing up, I know we've been jumping all over the place, but let me go back to our FigJam and I can show you a recap of just how simple, just how straightforward this really has been. So what we did is we, of course, started with Claude Code. We opened up Claude Code. We used the Crawl MCP server. We gave the URL of the service business to Claude Code, had it extract every single page, all the HTML, all the text within that page. We stored it in our project directory in our code base. We then went into WordPress with the WordPress CLI. We gave Claude full access to our site, and Claude analyzed our site from a technical SEO standpoint, as well as the on-page SEO and the content on the full page. And then Claude came up with a plan to expand on this content. We told Claude to follow all SEO best practices when it comes to local SEO and keywords. We had to do quite a bit of research there, and we told it to update these pages given your research. And that's exactly what it did. It expanded on all the service pages, the home page, the about us, all of that. And then it also did some on-page SEO updates. So meta descriptions, page titles, made all of those changes on these updated pages. And then it also, earlier on when it did a technical SEO audit, it started implementing this. So it went through, it did a full audit, did a ton of research on technical SEO and how to fix this. And then it just went through one by one. It did things like, and I'm going to be honest, I don't even know what half of these mean. I literally just asked Claude a second ago, hey, what do we do? And then it just told me exactly what we implemented. So database optimizations, security headers, performance optimizations, core web vitals, footer, local SEOs with following some SEO best practices in the footer, internal linking, open graph tags, breadcrumb, and then AI discoverability. So LLMS.txt as well as robots.txt. In addition to some other things, I know there's a lot there. I'm going to include in the description below, I actually put together a whole document on everything that we did from a technical and from an on-page SEO standpoint. So you can just take this doc, copy and paste it, and just give it to Claude, and Claude will help you just walk through this whole audit for your website to do this yourself. So that is exactly how to use Claude Code to audit your website from an SEO standpoint. Not only audit, but actually make changes, make SEO changes very quickly, all with natural language.